Hi, it's Mining44 here, and today I invite you to the review of the Jefftron Leviathan V3 Optical. Firstly, I would like to thank Jefftron for sending me the unit for the review, and my friend Radek that lended me the replica to install it in, because I don't own any replica with version 3 gearbox now. Let's start with what the system is supposed to do. Well, it replaces the contacts and the cutoff lever so that we'll not have to worry about them wearing out. But it doesn't stop there, because it gives us a lot of possibilities for programming our replica. We can assign different fire modes to each of the selector settings, change the rate of fire, set the active brake, so for example you will not have double shots on the semi when you use a weak spring and a strong battery or end motor. We can set the precock, that is the initial spring tension before the shot, thanks to which the shots are fired almost immediately after pressing the trigger. And the system protects the battery against excessive discharge and gives us access to very useful statistical data, and even something called virtual reload, which I will present you later. I have reviewed the Leviathan ETU before, but it was a unit with micro switches dedicated to version 2 gearboxes. Now, Jefftron presents us with a complete novelty in its offer. Firstly, the system is completely optical, so there are no moving parts, and secondly, it's dedicated for version 3 gearbox. And in the set we have a spring that is to imitate the feeling of a trigger like in a real weapon. So without prolonging, let's see how to install it and what features it has. But as standard, let's start with a small unboxing.
The unit comes to us in a black cardboard box. After opening it, you will see a set of Selector stickers for the AK and G36 family replicas, installation manual rich in photos and descriptions of the next steps in installation of the unit, a black sticker with the Leviathan logo, 2 bags with elements necessary for assembly such as screws, trigger stickers or spring for the Rfds system. And of course the Jefftron Leviathan V3 optical unit itself with ready wiring. The unit works on optical sensors. The first pair is responsible for detecting the position of the sector gear. A set of these sensors detect the trigger position. On the other side we'll find a sensor responsible for detecting the position of the selector plate. For this we will need a sticker, which I will present later. Additionally, Jefftron has prepared several soldering points for us, thanks to which we can extend the functions of the unit. On this side of the board we have 3 such points: VCC, that is a 3.1 volt plus, GND, that is minus, and SIG for signal. If you know electronics, thanks to these points and the appropriate function in the software, you can for example make an external trigger, a button for the burst free function, an AUX style trigger, virtual reload, or add a sensor detecting an empty mag. From this side we will also find a positive soldering point, and from the other side a negative one. These points can be useful for powering, for example, a tracer unit built in a hop-up chamber, winding up an electric magazine, or anything else that we would like to be supplied with voltage from the battery. I will install the unit in the G36 gearbox, but not take it as an installation manual. It may look a bit different in each replica, and if you don't know how to service replicas, it's better to leave it to someone with more experience. The unit replaces 2 elements in the gearbox that we have to remove. The first are the contacts with the spring. The trigger is pressing on this element and the current flows through it, which in stock replicas using strong batteries may burn these contacts over time. The second element is a cutoff lever. When you shoot the replica in a single mode, its task, in short, is to disconnect the connection after a full cycle. When this element is worn out, it sometimes happens that the replica will only fire with continuous fire. Due to the fact that the optical systems are sensitive to dirt, all parts should be thoroughly cleaned of grease before assembly. Jefftron also recommends that this edge to be slightly grinded. If it's sharp, it may damage the sticker on the selector, which may cause problems in operation. The set includes an Rfds Spring, a real feel trigger system. After its installation it will provide a feeling of resistance and breaking the trigger as in real firearm. But before installing it, file the edge on the pin so that the spring can slide on. In addition, the tappet plate should be slightly shortened so that it does not catch on the spring. Place it on the pin. Jefftron informs us that the system may not work properly in shells with a short stem, and unfortunately this is the case with the JG shell. The trigger works with a noticeable resistance, but unfortunately does not return to its position, even after I bend the trigger spring to have more force. After cleaning the shell from filings again, I can start installing the unit. It is inserted from the outside of the shell through the hole in which the contacts were installed. Lay the wires properly and make sure that the unit lays flat. Now I can secure it with a screw and washer from the set. Our goal is to position the unit so that it is at even distance from the bearing of the sector gear. In addition, if your shell has the right hole, that unit can be tightened with a small screw from the set. After screwing it in, I make sure that the screws do not stick out and I can proceed to mount the sticker on the selector plate. I take one of the stickers and try to stick it flush with the edge of the plate. After trying it on, it turned out that because of the sticker it's very difficult to move the plate and the sticker itself does not want to stick to the selector plate made of reinforced polymer. To solve the problem, firstly I filed down the elements on the plate a bit to compensate for the thickness of the sticker, and now secondly I glued the sticker itself to the plate with cyanoacrylate glue. It turns out however that the location of the sticker according to the instructions does not always have to be the best, because after applying it this way, the system only worked in semi. The sticker had to be moved a little further from the edge so that the unit could detect the selector settings. For proper operation of the unit, the sector gear must also be properly installed. It must be high enough above the unit so that it does not touch the screw, but low enough where the sensor can see the element on the bottom of the gear corresponding in the system with a normal contact block for interaction with the cutoff lever. The set includes a total of 4 foam stickers for the trigger element. The white ones are 1 mm and the black ones are 2 mm thick. They are glued to the trigger element to shorten the length of the trigger movement. Depending on how short we want to achieve the movement, we can stick 1 or more stickers. Thanks to them we can get almost a hair trigger. I just wanted to shorten the trigger path a bit, so I stick 1 2 mm foam. After assembling the gearbox and installing it into the replica, I start calibrating the sensors and programming the unit. Before installing the gearbox in the replica, you can test whether the sensors are working properly, but you should do the final calibration on full assembled replica, because the side light may distort the operation of the unit. The unit has a built-in Bluetooth module, which makes it very convenient to program it from application on the smartphone. At first start, just search for the system in application, and after entering the standard password 1234, we can go to programming. I will start with the calibration of the optical sensors, responsible for the selector's work. I change the selector to appropriate mode according to the instructions on the screen. If the selector is correctly calibrated, every value will be displayed in green. If it is in red or an error appears completely, it is possible that the sticker or sensor is dirty or the sticker is incorrectly applied. Next, I calibrate the optical sensor responsible for determining the position of the sector gear. After activating the function, I shoot a series of shots and I watch what is happening. In my case, after a few shots, there is an error. It is caused by too high sensitivity of the system. After dialing it down, the system works correctly. After calibration, we can start programming the system itself, and we have a lot to choose from. For each selector setting, we can set a different firing mode. If we remove the physical safety, it can even be set to the safe mode, and we can choose from safe, semi-automatic mode, semi-by-burst. When we press the trigger once, the replica will fire once, and when we hold it down, it will fire a series of shots. We can program 3 different values of the burst marked as burst 1, 2 and 3. For each mode we can set a range between 2 and 20 shots. The next mode is binary. Replica will shoot each time you press and release the trigger. The next mode is burst. Next is burst 1 when pressed and burst 2 when holding the trigger. Burst 1 when pressed and automatic fire, and the last function is a virtual reload, which I will show you later. The system allows us to control the rate of fire of the replica, which can be reduced by as much as 60%. There is, of course, an active brake that prevents double shots on semi and makes sure that the spring is not tensioned after shooting. Thanks to the precock function, it is possible to pre-tension the spring before the shot, so when we press the trigger it will shoot almost immediately. Despite the fact that this replica has a standard motor, you can still hear the difference. To take a full advantage of this mode, I recommend replacing the motor with a high torque one. Another function is responsible for a delay between shots that can be set in the range of 0.1 seconds to 4 seconds. A function useful in a DMR replicas when we do not want to be able to spam on semi. The system has a physical fuse, but apart from it, we also have an electronic one that works in the range between 1 and 100 amps. The system can also inform us when our batteries is approaching discharge, and when the value reaches the minimum level, the power supply will be cut off, so not to damage it. As I mentioned earlier, we can extend the possibilities of the system thanks to free soldering points. In the application we can choose from such functions as external trigger, burst free button, AUG trigger, empty magazine detection or virtual reload button. The last function is a virtual reload, thanks to which we can stimulate the need to reload the replica with a fixed number of shots between 10 and 400. We can additionally set the replica to inform us about the approaching end of the magazine and even delay our reloading. In the visible example I set 10 BB magazine. After firing them I had to set the selector to save and return to the firing mode, thanks to which the replica is virtually reloaded and I can take another 10 shots. This function is useful if we have a high cap for the replica, but for example real caps is required in the field we are playing. The application gives us insight into very interesting measurement data, such as the rate of fire, time of individual cycles, energy consumption in the individual modes, and even the system temperature and battery charge level. Compared to other manufacturers, it is worth noting that the application is available in many languages, not only in English. Even a tactical language is available as a small joke.
The installation of the ETU was not particularly difficult, although I would recommend it to people who already have some experience in upgrading replicas. The RTFS system in the JG shell unfortunately did not want to work due to the short pin, but Jefftron informs us that this can happen in some shells. I also had a small problem with the sticker on the selector, which I had to place a bit further than this instruction shows us. In addition, it did not want to stick to the selector from JG and I had to help myself with some cyanoacrylate glue. Fortunately, Jefftron gives us 4 stickers and as you can see, I did it in the third time. Is this a defect of the system? I wouldn't say. Every Airsoft text will say you that optical systems are installed slightly different in each replica, and that special attention should be paid to the stickers in each one. After everything is assembled and calibrated, as you have seen, the system works just fine. Personally, I like the fact that the system is controlled directly from the phone without additional devices, and that the changes we make are applied immediately, thanks to which we can program the system very quickly and accurately to our needs. If you are interested in the unit, you will find a link to it in the video description. There you will also find a discount code that gives you a 15% discount on purchases in the Jefftron store. Let me know in the comments how you liked Jefftron Leviathan V3 Optical ATU. And for now, thanks for watching and see you next time.